think so.
Hey everyone. Hello everyone. Excuse me. If you can please help me finding a seat, let's get nice and cozy, and we can get started. I really appreciate everybody being here.
Everyone grab some wine. I want you all to have a drink before we get started, so that it sounds, so that my presentation goes over much better. There's a two, just like in a comedy club.
Rory, I'm going to heed your advice.
It's a 2-drink minimum, so that everyone, comedians are funnier.
10-minute Monday. Number one.
All right, everyone. Thank you for being here. I got to meet this great human several months ago at a networking event in West Palm Beach. I think we hit it off immediately, and I figured that he'll be a great person to present to our community here at CTO Insights. He's the Senior Vice President of Digital Strategy at Oz Digital Consulting, Florida's premier Microsoft partner. So without further ado, please help me by welcoming Murray Eisenweiser.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. What did you call me, a great human? That's great. Incredible. I've never been called that before. Thank you all for coming. I'd love to keep this really interactive. We have, a group where we can have a real good discussion. What we're going to talk about here, or what I'm going to talk about, or hopefully what we're going to talk about, is talking about AI. The way that I'd like to do this is talk a little bit about the past in AI, then talk about the future, and then we'll go to the present. And when I mean the present is I'm going to show a bunch of stuff that either we're working on or, as a Microsoft partner, we get kind of a preview of some of the things that they have coming out. I'm going to show some of those things. There are 2 pieces of this that we're talking about client work, so no pictures, no press. Okay. So again, I'm Murray Eisenwasser. I'm the SVP of Digital Strategy at Oz Digital Consulting. I know I look like I'm in my 20s, but I've actually been doing this for a really long time. So I've been a consultant my entire career, and the changes that we're going through now with AI, and I'll start talking about how quickly these things are impacting the world, are far beyond anything that I've experienced, and I think any of us have experienced. Again, Oz Digital, you did a great job, so let's bottle that up. We're Florida's premier Microsoft partner. We do data, analytics, application development, integration, automation. I'm missing something. Cloud, and there's another one. So we've been around for 28 years. We have about 200 consultants spread across the world, and we're able to deliver solutions for our clients, which range from startups to large multinational organizations. Enough about those. Okay, so when we talk about the past, before we look to the future, in 2014, right, which was not that long ago, this was the AI landscape. In fact, it wasn't even called the AI landscape. In 2014, we weren't even talking about AI, believe it or not. It was called big data, right? AI was something, if you go and do Google searches from 2014 around AI, all you are going to see are companies, large technology platform companies, talking about how they had integrated artificial intelligence into their platforms. That's all you're going to find online, right? And everyone thinks, it's been around for a long time. But what I want to talk about, sure.
Are a lot of those companies not around anymore?
Oh, yeah, they are. It's Salesforce.
But the big ones, yeah. The ones up top.
Oh, these companies?
Yeah. Like
A lot of these are probably still around in one form or another. Okay, just keep this in mind because we'll look at what it was last year. And by the way, that's the first question. Thank you. You get open it up. It's an Oz Digital Yeti. So, what's that? I'm sorry? It's digital, yes. Those are hot commodities. You know.
What are we rewarding the question asked?
I'm sorry?
What are we rewarding the question asked?
He asked the question. Right? There are giveaways for other people to ask questions, so keep them coming. All right. So we take a look at the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution is still ongoing. It took 240 years from when the Industrial Revolution started to when we reached almost universality. And we're not quite there yet, right? And what people don't realize is that when we look at the Industrial Revolution, everyone thinks, oh, 1880s, and it was done. No. It wasn't until about 1920 that 50% of the world's population was actually indirectly impacted by the Industrial Revolution. And it wasn't until about 1960, 15 years after World War II, that 50% of the world's population was directly impacted by the Industrial Revolution. And it really didn't hit this level of 90% until 1990, 2000, right? It took 240 years for the Industrial Revolution to occur. When we now look at the digital revolution, from the first mainframes in 1950 to that universality, we're talking 70 years. We just recently hit it. And again, when we look at how long it took for the indirect impact of the digital, like we're all in technology, we think this is how the world is. But in the year just prior to 2000 is when it hit 50% of the world's population had an indirect impact from the digital revolution.
So not like they have a computer at home, but like their
daily life had some sort of impact from digital. It was only 50% of the world. And if you think about 7 billion people, right, 3.5 billion people had zero impact around 1998 with digital.
But that was basically because China and India were left behind, right?
It wasn't just China and India, it was Africa, it was the rest of Asia, it was a lot of Latin America, right? And even here in the United States, right? And it wasn't until 2010 that number of direct impact of everyone walking around with a cell phone, right? Everyone having access to the data and the types of applications, both in terms of an app, but the application of what you could do with that cell phone. It wasn't until the 2000s that direct impact hit across the globe at 50%, which still left like 3 billion people. And we're still not there. This number is probably even a little high right now, this universality. There's probably 700 million to 1.5 billion people that still don't have that direct impact. But I couldn't find those figures, so I just kind of continued the trend up. All right? That revolution took 70 years to reach that point. How long do you think it's taken for this AI revolution to occur? When we look at the AI revolution starting around 2010, now there was stuff that was going on prior to that, but in its current form, it really started around 2010, and we're 15 years in. The impact, and I'll show you something that came out that I got today. As a Microsoft partner, we get a couple of things early. So there's a report that they're about to publish that we got our hands on, or they sent to us. It's only this year, it's this year where AI is having a direct impact on people's lives. 50% of the people are directly using AI. Indirectly, you all used AI today, right? Every single person in this room, right? If you used, Waze or Google Maps or Uber or any of the apps that are really on your phone itself, all of those use AI. And it's in this year where we are about 75% of the global population is indirectly impacted. The speed at which this has occurred and the speed at which it will occur, which these numbers are actually, I think, too far out. I think this is going to be shifted over, and this is going to be direct impact at an 80% level, will be closer to 2030 than 2035. Right? And in fact, from that report, it's this end piece over here. Adoption is rapidly expanding as usage among enterprises jumped to 75% in 2024 at the enterprise level, compared to 55% in 2023. That was last year, right? I don't think there's really any organization of any size that isn't implementing some kind of AI solution, right? Or isn't using it in their day-to-day. And again, I'm going to show you some examples. We're not just talking about generative AI. We're not just talking about ChatGPT or Claude. We're talking about all kinds of different things that fall under the AI umbrella. The speed at which this is occurring, unheard of. Right? The way that it's impacting our lives, unheard of, right? And I'm sure we all have examples. So my wife is a certified children's yoga instructor at a preschool. It's a religious school, and we're Jewish, and she uses ChatGPT to create Jewish-themed children's yoga sessions. And it gives her stuff that she's been doing this for 15 years. She's like, I would have never thought of that, right? So you have someone who's not very technical using it. My kids, I have one who's graduating from graduate school, one who's graduating from high school. My son in the middle does actually cybersecurity for Google, right? For Andy. And so I was actually texting when we were talking about the acquisition, like we were talking about. He's like, yes, so are we. They're both using, generative AI to help them study, for their upcoming tests. I mean, it's invaded our house, as I'm sure it has all of yours, right? Any questions so far? All right. And if we look at the three of them together, the speed starting at their individual year zero, the speed at which the AI revolution is happening is 20 times faster than the Industrial Revolution, and I don't know, something like 4 times faster, 3.5, 4 times faster than the digital revolution. And it will and is truly changing the way that we work, the way that we live. Right? So when we go back to 2015, which is literally the first year there were things online, articles and discussions, and we did a word cloud of what was being talked about in 2015, because that was the first year that we actually had discussions about it, and there were reasons why that happened. It was really focused on technology and process, right? The more technical aspects of implementing AI or using AI. Things like computer and process and develop and technology and system and application. I actually have for each of the years leading up to this, but we're going to just jump right ahead to 2020. That had totally shifted in those 5 years, had totally shifted to talking instead about technology, talking about company, talking about customer. We start seeing articles about analytics around humans and interacting with AI, around products and AI.
You go back now, you go back.
Oh, yeah.
So humanized.
So being totally humanized in 2020. By 2023, customer. The discussions online around AI were about customers. How are we going to have our customers interact? How are we going to improve services to our customers? How are we going to use AI to improve our customer relationships? It was around analytics, generative AI, right? ChatGPT came out that year. So that became the big discussion topic around products, around how are we going to work differently. Some of those words were still always there. Technology will always be there, but we start seeing these trends of discussions online, right, which are both leading and lagging indicators of what's going on in the world. And when we look at last year, customer again, it's all the discussions about customer. But what's not here, last year, believe it or not, when we did the word cloud, generative AI was not at the top. That had already gone away. People were looking less at the technologies behind what we're going to implement, and we're looking more at what we're going to implement, right? And this is the first year, literally, all of a sudden, it wasn't there before, that we see the word strategy when we start talking about AI. How can we use AI strategically, right? Which is a major shift in those 10 years from where we started. It's become part of our everyday life, everyday business. By the way, that's the question, I think. All right. These are the Nobel Prizes that were given last year for physics and chemistry. Right? Can anyone tell me what all these 5 individuals, there were 2 in physics and 3 in chemistry, what they all have in common? Well, there is that. They were all AI researchers. The Nobel Prize for chemistry and the Nobel Prize for physics were given to people who had developed AI platforms for chemistry and for physics. Right? This is how ingrained AI already is in our culture. You know, I saw that, I realized that, it kind of blew my mind. Actually, so some of this presentation, we did an AI summit, a day-long conference in October in Fort Lauderdale that I hosted and managed. And this came out like the day before our conference. So I had to change my entire presentation just for that. All right, so you remember this? This was the AI landscape, which was actually a big data landscape in 2014, right? This is what it looks like last year. So whatever you're trying to do, whatever industry you're in, because there's industry-specific applications, there's infrastructure, there's not vertical industries, but horizontal across the organization platforms. Whatever you're trying to do, there's a solution that's already out there doing it, if not multiple. And I'm sure this is not complete because there's so many things going on. I can't imagine, it should come out, I think they do this in April each year. They've been doing it since 2014. I'm really looking forward to 2025's version of this, right? And how big it's going to actually get, right? Like, I don't think I spoke to anyone here who wasn't doing something with AI, right? As a startup or organizationally.
So what's the idea? More like market fragmentation, more customization, more everybody can use it.
Ingrained in everything that we do. Everything that we do, it's become part of the fabric already.
Everywhere.
It's everywhere. Right? So let's take a look to the future. These are my predictions. And my prediction is that by 2029, because I did this in 2024 in October, so 5 years later, I'm going to keep that 2029 up there. So by 2029, AI will just be part of the fabric of what we do. It'll be seamless. It'll be the equivalent of, like we did the AI summit back in October. That would be 5 years from now, it'll be like having a internet summit, because it's going to be so ingrained like the internet is. It'll be like having a computer summit, right? It'll be so ingrained in everything that you wouldn't even consider it. AI will be a foundational technology with everything that we build from the tech side. It'll just be ingrained in the way that we build it, and it'll be implemented as part of it in what we're building. The human AI collaboration that's going to be just part and parcel of how we live our lives. AI governance and ethics, we're still going to be talking about it at that point. We're not going to have done anything about it, but that'll be something that we're still going to be talking about. And the focus is going to be on autonomous systems and AI-driven automation. AI, I think by then, 2029, AI will be developing automations, will be automated. We will use AI to automate the creation of automations within an organization. Right? It'll be a meta technology where it will find those bottlenecks and fix it themselves. The other part of it is there's definitely going to be a sustainability and social impact. People's jobs are going to change. I don't necessarily think that they'll all be eliminated, but they will change, right? When I did this presentation back in October, and I think Google pulled out of one of them, each of the major AI players had signed agreements with nuclear power plants to provide power to their data centers. One of them just pulled out of one of those agreements. But Microsoft, IBM, Google had all signed agreements to provide power from, one was from 3 Mile Island, one was an agreement to build a smaller nuclear power plant in Tennessee, and then I don't remember where the third one was, right? An existing power plant that they were going to take half the energy produced.
What is AI as infrastructure?
So it'll be just ingrained in everything you do. Your coaster, your the floors, the lighting. It already pretty much is, right? Who has a Nest? I mean, that learns you, right? It'll just be part of the infrastructure. Products won't be developed without having an AI component, right? AI augmented creativity and innovation. So this has already happened so much that James Cameron, I think the director producer of the Avatar movies, he is putting up a placard before the movie starts that literally says, no AI was used in the creation of this movie. Now, the fact that he, who is probably the richest person in Hollywood, feels like he has to put that up before his movie means that everything else is already using AI one form or another to develop everything that we see coming out of Hollywood or the entertainment industry.
I think that's an impossible statement for him to make at this point.
I said the same thing. Like where does AI start? Where does AI end? I know that they developed a lot of technology themselves. Like what is AI? What is it? But that's what he felt, that it was so necessary to do that they didn't use AI to do any of the animation that they did. All right. That's the past and the future. Any questions before we go on to today? And what this is, we're going to show you a bunch of stuff that we've been working on with our clients. You don't get another pen, but thank you. Oh, it's a pen, by the way. It's not a cigar.
The coolest pen you've ever seen. Why is it? I guess, why is Google Maps or Waze, for example, AI? Because they're generating a path for you, but that's
well, they're using AI to figure that path out.
But they're kind of just calculating different data. They're not generating new insights or new information.
Well, how do you think they're
telling? Like the path of least resistance.
So I've had situations where I'm driving down a 95 and Waze comes on and says, exit right here, right? Get off at Commercial. And then it's like, okay, do a U-turn, get back on, right? As I'm driving. Why? Because there was an accident and it just happened right in front of me. And it routed me around the accident. That's absolutely AI looking at massive amounts of data, massive amounts of data, and figuring out that this particular car needs to exit now.
I think the way, sorry, just to build on that, I think the way they collect data also changed in the last decade. I think it used to be from, I can't remember what, like a trucks video and video, and now it become more like a user behavior data. So it's like, if I'm here and then I did this and that, and then they kind of like analyze it slightly differently. So I think Google Maps like changed how they actually
Right. Well, they bought Waze, so they're using the way. My son yells at me all the time. He works for Google, and he's like, use Google Maps, so stop using Waze. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm old-fashioned.
Oh, if I got a pen, I'm gonna ask a question. How do you think about the comment Jensen just made this week that we're using 100 times more computation power than we thought we were gonna use last year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's why they all made agreements with nuclear power plants to power, right? That's where the whole green thing is going to start coming in, right? You know, I don't want to get political, but maybe not, right? Now with where we are right now, but that's around the world. Those are going to become issues, right? Is
nuclear power plants take years and years to come up.
well, so what I believe some of them are doing is going to ones that have been shut down and starting them up again. Do you have a question?
How do you think they going to impact in the children's in school with AI?
So my daughter's graduating. I'll answer with a little story. My daughter's graduating high school. She's going to UCF. Thank you. We were up there for Admitted Students Day. And they told us that they had just hired a VP of AI at the university who is looking at every single thing they do and the way they do it at the university to say, how can we implement, AI-based solutions? And I'm actually going to show you an example of something we're working on with a university. But also that every single class will have to have an AI component. It's going to be like calculators.
Every class and every discipline?
Every class and every discipline. That's what she said. This was the VP.
So it's like the new DEI. AI's the new DEI.
No, I think it's the application of a technology that is going to fundamentally shift the way our society works. And they're doing everything they can to prepare their students when they graduate to be at least, to at least recognize, what this technology is. Right? Did that answer your question? No? Go ahead, try again.
No, yeah.
Are you sure?
When you said schools, did you mean universities or did you mean like K-12?
No, it's schools like high school, like this. The child don't thinking with AI. Use it for everything, like for exam, for homework.
We're going to have to, there's going to be enough people, we're going to have to change the way we think of school. Similarly to a math teachers back in the 70s and 80s said, no calculators in our class. And then, I don't know, my kids, I had to go buy the TI-95 graphing calculator, for them to use in their classes in high school, right? Because it had become an accepted different way of teaching those courses. And I think that's what's going to happen. It's just going to be used in a way, you guys are, in the world, it's not just you guys, because we have the same issue in our company. People think of AI as, generative AI, ChatGPT or Claude. It's a much bigger umbrella that's AI, right? And so we're going to have to change the way we view homework, the way we view, like they're eliminating cursive because nobody writes in cursive anymore. It'll be that kind of level. I don't know, my wife feels the same way. Can't get rid of the curtain. And I'm like, nobody uses it anymore. What do we need it for, right? It'll be something like that. There'll have to be changes in the way we approach education for children.
But maybe in 10 years, AI is something else.
It'll morph into something else, definitely.
What do you look in the layers, the organizational layers in terms of mostly all these technologies take the low part of the environment, but I think that is something is going to happen different with the eye because it's going to touch even the middle and the eye.
Without a doubt. All right, so let's take a look at some of the things that we're working on. We have a client. We can say who it is. They've presented this publicly. It's SBA Communications, which is a multi-billion-dollar organization. They do cell towers around the world. They have 200 subsidiaries. right, that work as part of the organization. And from a technology perspective, they're all on Microsoft GP as their accounting system, as their finance system. Each of them have, based on different regulations or based on what exactly they do, differences in the way they do their books, all on a single implementation. They hire a lot of people, so they have to train a lot of people. The help desk gets lots of calls, right? Of how do I do this? And the help desk then has to get very specific of what company that person is, or what subsidiary they're working on, and then get to give them the correct answer of how they would post a credit or something. All right? Huge issue. So we worked with them and we created a conversational AI assistant that's trained on their documentation across their organization, that does smart summarization, can ask questions, how do I, or tell me what to do, or whatever it is. It provides references to the source documents. It keeps a history for compliance. And it relieves the help desk of having to answer the same questions over and over and over again. All right.
Okay, so I am right now just new to the company, and it's the end of the month, and I'm scrambling. I need to post my thing. How do I create a journal?
To make it easier for the user, we actually pre-populated like most common questions, and all you need to do is click on that, and it's going to go out and start to generate the answers. I know that the screens are small, you will not be able to see like everything, but that's not the purpose for this specific one. And let's see how long it's going to take it to actually come up with the answer.
So what this is doing right now is this is looking at the user guides and the user manual, the how-to guides that are out in our application, and we've taken that data and we've put that into the AI. So the AI isn't just giving a general answer. So if you have customization for anything else like that in your system, you can put those in.
So as you can see, this specific agent returns the instructions with examples because we trained it to be the expert in Dynamics GP. As I said, like you will not create a lot of that. Like I can imagine it, but I don't think we need to. But you don't have the time to read it.
No,
right?
I don't, because it's the end of the month, and I've got to post this activity. I don't have time to read all that.
Right. So
Make that shorter.
what do? We just say, okay, I see all the data, but can you summarize it? Like for me, like for example, 2 paragraphs. And of course I could type, but I think like if I cut and paste, it would be quicker and easier. And now it's summarizing it in 2 paragraphs. Basically 2 or less, whatever. Now it's like 1.
Is that it? One? Yeah.
Right. And I think it's not done yet.
All right. There we go.
Yeah, so it's 2 paragraphs.
It was better than we had.
As expected.
Right? So we took the manuals across the organization, and a request like this was taking up to 22 minutes for the help desk to complete. So it's eliminating these questions from having to go to the help desk. It's freeing up the help desk to actually work on real issues, especially at the spike at the end of the month where everyone's doing all the work that they need to do, right?
All right, so a couple of questions. I think you're using RAG technology in the back end, right?
I'm sorry?
You're using RAG on the back end?
I don't know. RAG?
RAG.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah. I think so.
And then do you know how they are, what is the way they're going to measure the success of this program?
Let's wait till the next one that I show you from SBA, because we actually have tracking, and in that one it shows how we're going to track, what's going on. Because their metric was 22 minutes average for a help desk request like this, and it literally brought it down to a couple of seconds with no help desk interaction.
And the reason why I'm asking is because some companies have a little bit of an issue to identify the success primarily in the usage, right? Because primarily in this conversation, there's a lot of penetration. For example, in America, we have a little bit of a problem just with the IVR, for example. The IVR, we wanted to at least, do a penetration of more than 50% of our customers, and we only have like 10%. So like we do conversational AI, we did a proof of concept, it was very, not much of penetration, not much of a difference. So I was wondering, how the penetration of the rate of going to be successful?
Well, I mean, just the fact that it was 22 minutes versus nothing.
So that's how
On this one single, they have hundreds of applications that they use. So the pilot was on just Dynamics, and they're planning on rolling this out across all of their applications, right? So they're track. Did I give you a pen?
No, I'm sorry.
Did I give you a pen?
No.
I know you have one already, but yeah, have another one.
I don't write anything on paper anymore. I only use ChatGPT.
Any questions on this before I move on? All right, so this one's interesting. So this was the night before the AI summit that we had in October. We were setting up. Microsoft was presenting alongside us. One of the people who presented was Beverly Kotick. She's one of the program product managers for Azure OpenAI's product, right? And so she took this video of me.
I'm Murray Eisenwasser. As you can see, we're setting up for the summit. Very excited to have you join us, and we're looking forward to a great day, so enjoy.
And in real time, in front of the audience, during her presentation, she didn't know, but I mean, I obviously speak Swedish.
Så ni ser vad vi får för väldigt spänd på att jag är med oss. Vi ser fram emot en fantastisk dag. Så njut!
I also speak Korean.
정말 기대됩니다. 여러분이 함께해 주셔서 기쁩니다. 멋진 하루 되세요. 조용히 계세요.
And I'm actually originally from Montreal, so I do speak French with a.
Très excité de compter parmi nous et attendons une journée géniale. Profitez-en bien.
And that is a French-Canadian accent, as opposed to a French-France accent. There's a big difference. This is taking a video, extracting out the sentiment, extracting out what's being said, extracting out you heard the hand clap in every single one of them, right? So it wasn't like taking it and creating a, what's the thing where they have the words next to the video? The subtitles, something. They actually took this video and transliterated it into these different languages.
Capture your voice too.
And in my voice. I mean, just what is, and this is a product that they're about to launch.
What is it called?
Translator or something. I don't know. It's going to become part of. Now, back in the day before I was here, I had my own digital agency, and we did a project for a client where we created a video explaining their product, and they wanted it translated into 9 different languages, right? And we had to be careful of who we got to do the translation, because when you go into Latin America, or you go into the Arabian Peninsula, or you go into Europe, you have to make sure that you're using the correct version for that specific country that you're targeting. So we had to hire translators. We then hired other translators to check the translations that the original translators did, and they would get into arguments about wording and the way things would be phrased. We would then have to hire voiceover artists for each one that could do that accent, and then hire other people that would judge whether those people, I mean, this project was this massive project that would literally take minutes to do in today's world. Someone had a question? No?
I was you remember the old Kung Fu movies when they were
Right.
So I noticed they haven't matched the words.
It's not perfect.
But they're on.
I think it's going to be seamless. I think it's going to be seamless. As it is, it's pretty good.
They can match.
Yeah.
Not in this video. No, not in this video, but that's right there.
And she did these translations, like we recorded it the night before. During her presentation, she ran the thing and it did the translations during her presentation. That's how fast it is. All right. let's talk about another project that we've been working on with again, SBA Communications, and I can show this because they presented it themselves. One of the issues that they have is at the end of the month, when everyone is trying to close their books across these, again, 200 entities, a batch process might get stuck. That might back up all kinds of other batch processes as they're trying to close their books. The help desk was responsible for identifying that there was a problem, identifying the right person that could fix it, taking the batch, changing the status, sending it back to the person in the business to go into the data, make the change that needed to occur, to then resubmit it. This is taking a tremendous amount of time. And again, we're talking 200 entities, doing all kinds of different things. And so what we created was an AI that actually goes out and looks for batches that are stuck. And when someone logs into the system, it knows who is responsible for which batches, and the AI helps the person on the business. Again, not forcing the help desk to do it, helps the person on the business identify the batches, and there's a version of it where it actually goes in and changes and fixes the data to then be resubmitted. Right? So
the first thing it does, like after you log in, is tells you, okay, I understand you do have a problem with financial batches. Would you like me to escalate it or conduct the support, or would you like me to address it?
Right, so those two options there actually drive different directions of things. The notify support will create a ticket in the financials in the ticketing system, and then that goes to normal route.
So in this case, let's say no, I want you to help me. So once I do that, it goes in and it checks the condition of the batches. In this case, we have a few batches with the problems. We give you the quick summary of what they are, and kind of asking you which batch do you want to address.
So what this chat is actually doing is not only integrating with me and interfacing with me, and we're asking questions, but it's actually going out to the financial system. It's looking for activity that is less than normal. So this isn't all of our batches. This is just the batches that have an issue.
So let's say we pick up the batch, and once we know which batch we want to look at, it gives us the more detailed information. Here we just display just a few pieces of information, but you can extend it and you can have the whole card of the ticket. And in this specific flow, it's asks this is the ticket, do you still want me to address it? And as we all know, are you sure you want to delete this record, right? So in this case, yes, I want to do that.
So this is what it's doing now is it's not necessarily deleting the record, it's resetting it into a state that now I, as a user, can go in and edit that, find the issue, what was the issue, go in and address that issue.
Yeah, and when I said about the deleted record, I was joking. So in this case, it found the batch, it addressed it, and it created the ticket in the support system. So you actually have the trace of this ticket. It gives you the ticket number, the date when it was created, and kind of thank you for using public fixer. But it's been more proactive because it knows that you just addressed one, but there are more, and it says I found more. Do you want to address it now? And I'd say, yeah, I'm still the person who's working in this specific department, and I know that I do have more. So I click yes, and it goes through the similar cycle, basically does the same thing, and then addresses, fixes, and at the moment when it addresses and creates the ticket, it sends you the email as well, so you get the instant notification. I turned off my Outlook so you guys don't see all the emails that I'm getting. But in the parallel, you actually do that, and it looks at the stats for this ticket, and it tells me, you know what, you worked on this ticket 5 times already within 7 days. Something is wrong with it. Do you want me to escalate it to support team? And in this case, I say, yeah, I do. So what it does, it actually puts this ticket in the support queue, and it gives you the message that according to SLAs, you should hear back from the support team within 60 minutes because it's a high priority ticket. At the same time, it sends a notification to support team, to you, and everybody involved. But I wanted to show you one other thing. This Bob the Fixer actually has a lot of analytics built in as well. So what you see here is the performance of the bot and the statistics of like how many times it was pressed, what it did, and other things.
So that kind of answers your question. We build analytics into everything that we do so we can track these things, right? The next version, so again, remember when we used to have to build those workflow systems and we used to have to identify people and if somebody left the company, the whole thing broke down. This is all automated. It's all based on Active Directory. It's all based on who submitted the batch. It knows who you are. It goes in, it looks for batches that you've submitted, that there's a problem, that it's sitting there in the queue for whatever the threshold is or was rejected for some. So it's all, once it's set up, it's all automated in the organization, right? It's actually looking for these things so that for you, when you log in, based on your security, who you are, what your role is, and what you've done in the past.
Would it be fair to say that's today? When you look forward in 2029, it's actually just finding them, fixing them, and giving you the tracking. It's almost like spell check.
Absolutely.
Before
That's the next version of this is,
go item by item. Yes.
they kept the human in that loop. Find it. Do you want me to fix it? Right? Or do you want to do it? If you want me to fix it, this is where I think the error is. Do you agree? Yes, it is. It will go into the data, fix it, and resubmit it. Like, I don't think we, at this point at least, want to take the human out of that cycle. But in the future, I can see that being the case. And then truly escalating something that, it's like, hey, I don't know what's going on here. The human has to look at this.
So creating a ticket number just bumps up to the top of the list? Or
Well, so whether or not, it always creates a ticket number. So if somebody does something and resubmits it, or a ticket was created that happened, it doesn't. It's created with a closed status. But there's an audit trail of every time something was submitted, to the system. Every time. That's how they were able to build out the dashboard to be able to track. Here's how long it's at in the queue. Here's how many were done. To be able to look at, hey, we're having an issue with this group of batches. Maybe someone should go in and see if there's an issue, right? To be able to go look at that.
So when you're doing implementations, you're implementing Microsoft Azure, but you work with ServiceNow, NICE, a lot of the other.
Yeah, so this integrates to a couple of different things actually. So we don't implement ServiceNow, but we would integrate to it as part of a solution to bring the data out, absolutely.
But would a bot like this kind of compete organically with a ServiceNow product?
It could. Yeah, I mean, they're a big Microsoft shop. I'm sorry?
What he's saying is ServiceNow actually provides some level of these capabilities.
Yep. All right. So this one is really cool. How many people use Teams? This is coming out in a close to near future version of Teams.
All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I am going to go here. Now, you can't see what I'm doing, but I am turning on AI interpretation. I'm going to choose my language, and my language is English. So my AI interpreter is on. And let's just say that I'm a contact center agent for a health insurance company. You're calling in. So ring, ring. Hello, how can I help you?
जी मुझे आपसे एक सवाल करना है अपने प्लान के बारे में। I have a question about my plan.
Okay, how can I help you with that?
मेरा सवाल ये है कि मेरे पाँव में बहुत ज़्यादा दर्द हो रहा है और मैं चाहता हूँ कि अपना एक्सरे करवा लूँ। ये मेरा प्लान कवर कर सकता है? My question is why I am experiencing a lot of pain in my feet and I want to get my own x-ray done. Can my plan cover it?
Yes, in fact, if you have that pain, if you get a valid referral from a doctor, then you can indeed get that x-ray. Your plan does cover it. Is there anything else I can help you with?
तो मैं कौन से डॉक्टर के पास जाऊँ पहले? आप मेरे इसके बारे में मदद कर सकते हैं? So which doctor should I go to first? Can you help me with this?
Yes, so the type of plan that you have, you can go to any doctor that you choose. I would recommend you go to a podiatrist.
अच्छा बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया मेरे लिए इतनी काफी है इस वक्त thank you very much it's enough for me at this time
I think it's Armenian. It's Urdu? Is it? Is it? See, we were talking about it. I wasn't sure. So, yeah. It's Urdu. It's Urdu, from what I understand. Real-time translation in Teams is coming.
That's pretty cool.
Right? So, if you think about customer service, yeah, it's going to be part of the Teams platform. Again, where we're going to be a year from now, you guys are going to look back at this presentation and go, that was so immature stuff, right? It's happening so fast. A year ago, I couldn't have done any of these demos. All right. So we have a client. They're one of the country's top 10 largest insurance brokers, right? Billion of dollars. Insurance brokers, or people in the insurance industry, they sit between the insurance company and the agents, but they also deal with customers. I mean, there's different variations of it. One of their lines of business is workers' comp. And the way the data is in their workers' comp claim, there's reports that were created in the field that are on paper that were scanned in. There's medical histories that are part of it, potentially police histories that are in there. There's legal stuff that's in there as these claims get adjudicated. There's all the adjudicators from the insurance company, these massive text-based files that get scanned in that could be 50, 60, 100 pages long, that are then coupled with other claims that are similar in these massive multi-thousand page PDFs. That's what they get back, right, from their agents and insurance companies. So somebody calls up and says, hey, what's going on with the claim? Somebody has to go find the right PDF, scroll through it, read through it, could be 50 pages of medical notes, read through it, understand what the question is that's actually being asked. Massive time-consuming process. There's about 12 different people within the organization, 12 different types of roles that access that massive PDF that could contain multiple claims from different people, right? Does that sound like an issue? So we created a system, and also there's two parts to this. The first one, well, I'll let it explain it.
So he starts by saying, I'm concerned about shoulder injuries. This is something we're seeing. We're having difficulty bringing people back to work after shoulder injuries. And so I'll read it to you because I know the text, the font's a bit small. And he says, give me the oldest shoulder injury claims that are in this database. And you can see there's one with Mark Hancock. He tripped over, scroll a bit, what happened to him? He tripped over some debris and fell on his right shoulder. His foot got caught and he fell. And so let's go a little bit further. We'll ask more about Mr. Hancock, his claim, to find out if he's using opioids. This is a common problem in musculoskeletal industries. These people are on a lot of painkillers, and sometimes, if we go to the next question, and sometimes that can lead to issues, not necessarily addictions, but issues where if you've ever had the dental work done, the afternoon TV lineup is really enticing when you're on the painkillers. So here I ask, is he returned to work yet, and is he on restricted duty? And the chatbot says, yeah, he's back to work. He's on line duty with restrictions, as of October 13th. The next question is he on opiates? He is on opiates, as it turns out. He's using Narcan, and then I'm interested in that. It's a very important piece of this, and it's by giving it context with other folks, it really makes it clear, rather than trying to digest, let's say, all 50 prescriptions he's had during the 2 years of his injuries. And so the chatbot then says, from memory, practiced this earlier, he's on Narcan. I say he's Narcan often prescribed to accidents that you've heard of here, and it to give you an example of one, and they give an example and they say, actually, it was the same doctor who prescribed Hancock and this other fellow. Now, this is a national company, so it's odd that one doctor would treat two different injured workers. He switched to Percocet and Belbuca. And the end game of this, when I tried this without looking too hard for it, was that I looked to see if these people lived in the same town. And that might give me an indication that there's a local doctor who's kind of specializing in dealing with this company's workplace injuries, which isn't something that we've arranged or should happen naturally, and is a little bit of a red flag in terms of fraud fighting.
So do you understand what went on there? These massive files, where this information could be in any one of those files that would have to be found to be able to answer those questions that they're being asked from a customer service perspective, or an adjudicator working for the insurance company is asking these questions, or a lawyer for the insurance company is asking these questions, or a lawyer for the plaintiff, if they're getting sued, is asking, hey, what's going on with this claim? And it's ants taking this unstructured, which I'll show you in a second what we did with this massive amounts of unstructured data and ingesting it into a large language model and then turning it into something else where you can query it like this. And you can use it to query, show me all of the places across the country where this kind of claim is happening. And then they look for a cluster, right, where there's fraud. Right? I mean, they were not able to do that ever before.
How long do you think it will be until the organizations are comfortable removing the little disclaimer at the bottom that says the chatbot may be incorrect, double check the results?
I don't know. That's a great. I was noticing that actually. Here, should I give you one of these, right? Here. I was noticing that when I was putting this together. I'm like, interesting. They all have that.
It's and to be frank, it's essential. And
right.
Everything I've done with AI still.
What we build into each one of those is these videos that I'm showing you that look like this. They're all on our website if you want the longer version, the entire presentation. And what they show is that there's a whole other side to this where you can say, show me the detail. Right, and it'll actually bring up the detail from the documents or the database or whatever it's accessing, so that you can actually check that, right? So and then we have with all of these we track everything that's happening to create an audit trail, right? So I don't know when that's going to get released.
It's key.
Right.
It's just at some point the legal team is going to be comfortable saying, okay, we don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's so ubiquitous.
Probably when Microsoft and Google and Amazon remove it from their products. OpenAI, Claude, remove it from theirs. Right. All right. So the second one then tackles the problem of these documents are all unstructured data, but we want to do reporting. We want to understand trends. We want to look for things. For that, you need structured data. And to do that, you would have to do a big OCR thing, and then you have to have a human look at it and make sure that it actually captured the right information, figure out the database. So we used Azure's OpenAI to do all of that for us.
Second aspect of this is a tool that goes into the full set of data for an individual accident. If we click on details, and we can choose a claimant by claim number, and click on that. We'll get a little bit of a summary here. And so there's a few things going on here. One, they've taken the claims file information. If you click on all JSON, and you'll see that it allows us to dig in a few different areas, legal, nurse notes, etc. But what they've also done is create some structure from the unstructured data. So there's some key fields that we're interested in. We want to know what type of claim it is, who the insurance company is, etc. And there's a lot of stuff we're interested in that we can create more structured data with. We use that in the next step, but by essentially creating by structuring these claims, we can create a time series that looks at the whole corpus of our full claims database and finds out things that have changed this month, this year, from the prior year. And we can perform statistical tests that allow us to, in two ways. One, look at the time series, see if anything's changed, and if that didn't happen randomly. And then two, we can also create similarities between claims. So in the same way we look at baseball players, we compare them to retired players over the course of their career. We look at a guy after 2 years and make that comparison. We do that similarly with claims. This claim's been open 6 months. Maybe in the past we used machine learning to just look at it's a shoulder injury, it's open 6 months, he's on physical therapy, and try to find similars. But now we can go a lot deeper, and we can look into these things, these softer things like what is his family situation, what's his social status, do you think he's been displeased with the way we've been adjudicating this claim? Is that the vibe you've gotten from the notes? And by weighting those properly, we can find here are the 10 most similar claims. A lawyer or a claims adjuster can react to that and get a feel for the full distribution of comparable claims rather than just an expected ultimate settlement cost.
Any questions?
You know how you mentioned that you use the Azure API to translate the structured from unstructured to structured. What was the data quality? I mean, was it accurate?
Oh yeah.
To select.
Yeah. So in all of these, you want to build in feedback loops. You want to train the models and what to look for, right? And then if it doesn't understand something, to bring it up to a human to say, what should I do here? I mean, they're using it in the way that he said, which they're using it when they have claims come in. It's like, show me 10 claims that were similar to this, so that as an adjudicator, right, or as a lawyer who's defending, the insurance company, you can say, well, what happened with those? Well, those each got $1 million settlement. If I offer, I hate to say this is what they're doing. If I offer $250,000 and they take it, that's a win, right? So it's the data is all there for them to be able to do those things.
I'm just curious to see about the.
Yeah, no, it actually, they're starting to roll this out. We're expanding the system as we speak, so they must be really happy with it. All right, we're working with a university. One of their issues is that students leave before they graduate, very often after their first year. And they just don't come back. And that's a huge financial impact on the university with what it took to get that student to go there and choose them over other universities, the amount that they spent, the amount of time that was spent with that student with the expectation that they would continue for the next 3 years. And we're actually creating a system where we're using historical data that we can get from multiple sources within the university. So it's admissions, it's academics, it's health and safety, right? To create profiles where it'll then go and look at current students and identify students that the team at the university should reach out to see if there's issues that they can help them through to have them come back the following year and continue their education. Right? So remember, there's a big umbrella around AI, so we're not really using generative AI. We're using machine learning, we're using predictive analytics, we're using other techniques that fall under that to be able to make this decision of, here's a student who fits this profile of someone who's not necessarily coming back. Here's what we think, here's what was done in the past, and over time it'll learn. These were the interventions that were done for students like this. We suggest to do this, and then come back and tell us how you did, how it worked out, right? Major impact. Now, if you think about this could be used for customers. This could be used for employees, right? You have a big company and you have a high attrition rate. Why are people leaving, right? What can we do ahead of time, right? So there's applications for something like this across a wide range of use cases. Something that we developed for ourselves, right? So we're out in the field, we're working with clients, we're on the phone with someone. So my boss comes to me and says, what's going on with that thing, right? And it's like, you know, you don't always have your laptop with you, or if you do, you have these massive documents to be able to try and find this information. So we created a Aussie. It's basically you send an email with an attached document. So this is an actual deliverable from one of my strategy projects. It's about 4 years old, so I feel comfortable sharing it. It's just the first 50 pages of the actual 100-something page strategy document, right? So I'm talking with the client. The client asks me a couple of questions. Hey, what are the main themes that we agreed on? I don't remember. Can you list the 10 initiatives we agreed on and what their SVM ranking and score is? And what the SVM ranking and score is something which I and my team developed to rank strategic initiatives in a 3-dimensional graphing system, right? To say, help organizations decide where they should focus. So it's not something that's out in the general public, right? It's not at all. Can you list the potential start dates for each of the 10 initiatives? And can you list the main tasks for the next phase that we're doing with the client, which we're calling phase 0? And I send that email with that document, and what comes back to me a couple of minutes later are the answers to those questions based on the document that we sent. Right? So, I'm sorry? And so this is pretty detailed. I mean, the information that's in here, right? It has to look. I mean, where I have in this the SVM rankings and score on these charts, they're right there, right? It's a tiny little thing. You figure it out. That's what I was asking about, right?
At the end of the day, it's a query.
I'm sorry?
At the end of the day, it's a query.
Well, it took a look at, we ingested it into large language model. And then what it does is it actually deletes the document that you're sending to it, so it's no longer being held. Another example is, this is a statement of work, right? Some of our statements of work are just these massive documents. For this document, right, you know, I'm being asked, I want a highlight list of the scope of work, a list of the tasks involved, list of the deliverables, items that aren't in scope, a list of activities per month and associated fees. I want the payment schedule, a list of the tasks that involve a senior functional analyst, because the senior functional analyst I was going to put on this project was just taken to another project, and I want to be able to find one, right? Out of this statement of work. Here are the responses. Here's the scope of work, a list of the tasks involved, a list of the deliverables, items out of scope, the activities per month and associated fees, the payment schedule, and the tasks that involve the functional analyst. All within a couple of minutes. I use it if I have a receipt from a lunch or a dinner. I attach it in with our expense policy. Say, tell me if I broke our expense policy or not when I submit this. You can actually try it right now. If you have something on your phone that uses either images or PDFs, send to ozzy@followoz.com and give it a subject of CTO Insights, and you can actually try it with something if you want.
Like if a friend has a pitch deck, they're gonna do whatever.
Send a picture.
So it's gonna be more like a query finding things in there, not like, hey, what do you think can be improved here?
Yes, it's more the former. Tell me, what's in here. Give me information more about it. Not because it's using the information exclusively that's in the document.
We had a small tenant
Yeah.
to understand.
Yeah.
So in the data model, there's typically 4 steps in the data model. The first one is what happened, right, like historical. So what I've seen a lot of models look at, tell me what's in these documents, right, historical that exists. Where are you seeing the ability to start getting prescriptive and predictive and saying what is going to happen next? So are you working on models that are doing that?
Absolutely.
How developed is that now?
So predict the future, right? It's a statistical. At the end of the day, it's a form of statistical modeling, right? So to say 100% this is what's going to occur next, I mean that's not the way that they. It's
about what for like insurance claims, right? You can say in the state of New York, we can predict when there's rain, there's more accidents, right? So are they actually getting to the point where they're predicting claims for the next quarter?
We're actually working with, I don't know if I can say this or not. We're working with an insurance company that insures transfer people who, I'm trying to be vague on purpose, people who provide transportation services. And what it's doing is it's bringing in where those people are, looking at a bunch of external factors like weather, like police reports, and other things to say, there's a group of people that you have insured that are in this location where they are predicting a snowstorm tomorrow. You may want to get in touch with them and tell them to wait until 10 o'clock in the morning before they leave.
So, good example, for example, there's a company that does microclimates.
Mm-hmm.
And you have an API, Uber and Lyft have APIs that will microclimate can tell where it's going to rain in the next 2 hours in specific
Right.
zones.
So that they can raise prices.
Drivers.
Or they can raise prices.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
It is.
Yep. Same type of thing. But that's not 100%. Did anyone do this, by the way? No? No. God, I would love to see what you guys get back.
What is the reason of being in this like email format?
Because I could be anywhere and do that. I could be out. I could be, driving on the car. I pull over. I have a document on my phone, right? The client's asking me, or my boss is asking me a question, right? And I can just say, "Give me a second. Let me send it and get the answer back." I mean, I had when I was running one of our big practices up until a couple of years ago, and I created this huge spreadsheet model because I was getting asked questions, by our CEO and our president at the time. So what's going on with this project? Who's on it? All these questions. So I had this model. I was able to bring it up and answer questions. If I was in my car, if I was not near my computer, I wouldn't be able to answer those questions. This solves that.
Yeah, but I guess my question is, like ChatGPT can do the same, you can do it on your phone. Like, what is the reason of choosing the email format versus the chat?
So it's honestly, it's easier than taking it, dragging it in, having ChatGPT come up. I'm in a meeting, right, with a client. This is a much better, form factor with the client than saying, let me bring up ChatGPT and answer it, right? Besides that, this is all private, and this data then gets deleted immediately afterwards.
Probably you put your data into ChatGPT without a private tenant.
And
so you would have to have a private tenant first in order to create.
You could.
Yeah, and you can do temporary chat, and
you can do all those things. I may be at a client where I don't have my Wi-Fi. I have my phone. As long as I can access that document on my phone, right, I can get an answer to whatever query comes in. All right. Any thought-provoking questions? And then I want to come back if there are or aren't any. You guys were great. I loved all the questions. Yes.
The example of the insurance claims. Mm-hmm. So I was just curious, all the raw data is unstructured, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get that into something that's that structured? Using you said LLM, but I'm just curious.
It's ingested, and they built a process that takes that information and ingests it in such a way that it's structured in the LLM. So when we bring up the screen, it knows what to go out and get as part of the ingestion.
But there's no traditional structured databases. It's not putting it into.
Nope. I don't think so, at least.
A question on the economics, right? So you're reselling or implementing Microsoft services, right? Mm-hmm. When I was at Honeywell, we implemented Azure, and it was super expensive. This is before AI, right? There was an instance where they were paying $200,000 for one server, the equivalent of a server. So just curious, when you're going back and forth doing all these queries, how does it impact these companies in terms of their Azure bills? Is it Azure?
I honestly can't answer that. how it's impacting their bills. I do know that every one of these instances with these client solutions, the savings that they're getting in terms of increase in productivity are offsetting that dramatically. And that right now, I think these things have gotten a lot cheaper, have gotten cheap, right? They just came out with a model, I probably should know this, where they increase the amount that you get for the price. I mean, so, we actually also have an entire practice area that works with our clients to optimize their Azure spend. Oh, yeah.
They were spending with drone sailors, and they couldn't actually map it back to productivity improvements, but they knew that it had to be cloud-based.
Mm-hmm.
That was good for the Wall Street clock.
Right. Yep.
But I think the cloud-based setup is very tricky. Sometimes you will have some architect come in and say, here's your top 10 workflow have to be on the fastest machine, and then the 90% can be like slow, whatever. There's a way to optimize
Right.
it. I'm not an expert, but I work with people, like it can dramatically change your bill. Like
Without a
I've
doubt.
seen like, 100% reduction just by like mapping those out.
Without a doubt. And then, like I said, we have an entire service that we offer, which is going in and helping organizations take a look at what they're doing and how they're doing it to decrease what their spend is on the clouds that they've implemented to optimize them. There's like 6 different areas that we look at. It's not just money. There's security. There's throughput. There's a bunch of other things. All right. So next month, Hugo will be presenting. So plug for that one on April 24th, right here in this great location. Right, so please, join Hugo. Looking forward to it. And then before we leave, just some practical advice. Business people these days are like, get me some of that AI. I want some of that AI. Yeah, that's not. Find a business problem, right? Identify it. Get people to agree that it's an actual problem. That's the first step. You then need to assess the data, the availability, the quality, right? Good data underlies all good AI implementations, right? It's so critical to spend time on the data and start with a small focused use case that'll help solve at least part of that business problem. Involve your key stakeholders early. Do not forget about legal and compliance, right? People usually bring them in, especially depending on the industry, right at the end. Got to bring them in right from the beginning, right? The business users, the data people, the analytics people, IT, all the different people that are in the organization need to be involved right from the beginning. But definitely leverage existing tools that are out there. Don't try and build your own. There's no reason to at this point, especially with what's coming, right? To build your own tools with what's coming, try and stay up with what they're going to be, what the roadmaps are. Integration and scalability, you got to plan for that. They don't just happen, right? Very often, we were actually brought into a client who had created some POCs, and when they decided they wanted to put them into production, realized that those POCs would not run in their production environments, right? And then monitor it, optimize it, and iterate it. You don't have to do everything all at once. Take a little nibble of that elephant, and come back and take another chunk out of it and build over time. So that's my advice for all of this. All right. All right. Well, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Murray, for being here with us. You guys are more than welcome to hang out, ask questions. We have Murray, and we also have Hugo here for our next visit. So feel free. There's food, drinks. Let's hang out if you have time and enjoy the rest of the night. Thank you very much.
Well. It's good?
Yeah. Question.
Sure.
That's great.
Thank you.
Have you thought of, or at least been part of conversations talking about future workforce